I remember when I left Australia for Pacific Union College in the Napa Valley of California with my parents in May of 1977. I hoped that I could get away from my loser status and move up in status, start a new school. And there were hints there that it worked for a little while. I entered 6th grade, and everyone didn't automatically know that I was a loser, like people at Avondale College already knew. So the most beautiful girl in the class dropped a note on my desk asking me to go with her. So I had my moments, I had my opportunities. So I have a weakness for the dramatic gesture, for new beginnings. I love new beginnings, new reinventions. So I went back to Loma University this weekend. I was invited to speak on a panel about a new book on the Sabbath. So I stepped back into Adventism, the religion in which I was raised. And I thought that one of the reasons I left it is that I didn't want to face who I was, loser. I wanted to create a new identity. And I've done that as an Orthodox Jew. But no matter how far I run, kind of like Jonah from God, I still have to confront myself. You could pick me up out of here and you could drop me into England or Australia or France or Japan, and very quickly I'd locate myself at the same place on the food chain. That's the thing about converts. People don't convert to a difficult new religion, such as Judaism, because necessarily they were so successful and happy and socially well adjusted where they were. People become Orthodox Jews because they want to create a new life for themselves. And they don't like what they see in the mirror. They want to make something different. So at least I got to go back to Adventism with better use than I've ever had before, thanks to 18 months of nearly 2 years of Alexander technique training. I have a freer neck, I'm taller, I have more flexibility and poise in my body and in my soul, in my thinking and in my emotions. So I wasn't stuck in my same old habitual postures and habitual alignments of my thinking and the way I respond to stimuli. I remember I grew up a Seventh-day Adventist and I spent thousands of hours being stuck listening to other people's sermons. Even as a kid I thought, I can do better. I can be smarter, I can be wittier, I can be more honest, I can be more revelative of life. So this was my little opportunity. So it was a panel with 5 other people. But it was a little opportunity for me to demonstrate that I had something to say also. And it was a thrill for me to have other people listen to what I had to say. People who I may not have grown up with, but I grew up the same way that they grew up. I grew up in their world. So this was like coming home. This was like my Cinema Paradiso, which is my favorite movie. Cinema Paradiso is a 1989 Italian film. There are 2 versions, a 2-hour version which was theatrically released in 1989, and then the director's cut which came out in 2002. I love this movie, so for me 3 hours is better than 2 hours, so I like the 3-hour version best. But the 2-hour version may be a better movie. They're very different movies. But the essence of both movies is this. There's a little boy who grows up in a poor rural Italian town with one parent, a mother, and he falls in love with the cinema. And he spends as much time as he can at the cinema, and he is mentored there by the projectionist. At the same time, he falls in love with this girl, and the projectionist sees that unless the boy leaves town, he'll never succeed in the outside world as much as he can. So the projectionist arranges it so that the boy will leave town, and the boy goes on to become a very successful movie director. But on the other hand, he never establishes a family, he never marries and settles down, he just kind of goes from woman to woman to woman. He's lying there in bed one night with a woman, and he gets a phone call that his mother has died, and he needs to go back home to his village. And so he goes home, and he sees again the woman, the girl that he once loved, and he comes to make some sort of peace with the bittersweet nature of his choices. So that's what it's like for me to step back into Adventism. When I was an Adventist, I couldn't wait to get out. Couldn't wait to get into the world, make my mark. I hated Adventism. It seemed so irrelevant to the world. It seemed like a retreat from the world. But I loved so many people in Adventism, and I continue to love so many people in Adventism. By leaving that world, I largely left them behind. So that's the bitterness of my otherwise sweet choice to become Jewish. So I was walking around Loma, and I was trying to think, so how is this place different than if this was a Jewish university? How are Seventh-day Adventists different from Jews? And their way of life is much easier. It's not nearly as demanding. They have much fewer laws that they need to live by. Study doesn't play as important a role in Seventh-day Adventism as Judaism. Seventh-day Adventism in America is largely an English language religion. They study the text of the Bible in translation, and there's very little knowledge of Hebrew, let alone Greek, from the New Testament, except among the scholars. Many of the scholars know some Hebrew and Greek. Some of them know it extensively, but not the regular people. And life in this Adventist college seemed much less intense than Jewish life. People are nicer, they're much more controlled and restrained, and Jews tend to be much more volatile and emotionally open. And they talk more, and they talk more intensely, and they live life more intensely. So it was so good. I'm the son of an evangelist, so I count seats. So we were doing this panel in a hall, and pretty much every seat was taken, and some people were sitting on the floor, and some people were sitting outside the doors. And it was flattering to have a full house. Got to connect with so many good people, reconnect with some old friends. And then I got to leave and come back to my life in Orthodox Judaism. So it's nice to be away for 32 hours, and it's very good to be back to my new life. Have the opportunity to reflect and to blog out my thoughts on my Sabbath at Loma University.